Hello everyone. The title of today's talk is What to Do When One Meets Failure. What to do when meeting failure. That's a good title. A human being is a design when it recognizes the self. We are looking and being inspired by the world around us to be who we are. And in a sense, we begin to see what you consider is you. And certain considerations which you think as if you can consider something or you cannot consider something, that's within a consideration you're having, which is your manifestation. Now, we need to begin to see when we want to look beyond ideas, can ideas really help us? When we are met with that moment when we projected something or we put a good intention out and it was not met by the good we could see, but still life flowed on. When your wrongs and rights just become information to you, you as a being become aware of the nature of existential form. Whether it's you, like a part of your body, or whether it's an aspect of something you're seeing in someone else, it could be anything. And that's the point, because there needs to be an intention first before there can really be an understanding of what we're getting at. What that means is if for one chance, if there was one moment where one could see that this world was made beyond man's understanding has found a hole in it. There's a black hole, not in space, guys, there's a black hole in how man is seeing himself. And what I mean by that is we cannot understand a part of our experience, and it seems it's only to our segmentation and our measurement. What that means is if I traveled back to the future with my iPhone 6, if I traveled back to the past with my iPhone 6, and I showed it to my great ancestor, he would not understand it directly. He would not see the passage of the technologies that have been advanced. But if you were a being who could time travel, how would you come back in time? And so, of course, all of these are leading to the understanding that in order to be able to travel in time, we need to be able to observe beyond time. And many beings think that time travel is something that technologically needs to be achieved. Time travel can be how your experience is flowing every moment. No? Because we're saying this second I'm saying this second I'm saying this, and every instant seems to be oriented based on some X and Y axis, which we're calling time and space. But when you are given a box, some people are just saying it's a box, man. There's nothing inside, it's a box. And some people are holding this box and they're like, okay, this box of reality and manifestation, space and time, and who I am, who I've come here to be, why is it here? And you wonder why you've been given this box, and everyone's telling you it's because it's a box. They're saying it's a box. But you wonder, why were you given this? And so this is where you open your gift, which is your self-awareness, moving beyond your idea by being able to observe it. How is it that you right now can observe how you were 5 years old? You know, you can be aware of certain memories. How is it that you, existing now in this physical reality, can be aware of simultaneously another moment when you did something? And so if we want to only take an objective understanding to this, we are limiting the energy range, and I don't like that. There needs to be more than objective and subjective understanding, and any understanding that is being suggested out of a spectrum. For once the spectrum fades, it is an existential movement beyond man's understanding, you see? So let us go back to what to do when you meet failure. Failure comes when your story does not fit the character, simply put. And so your character is always in some sense of story the minute it considers a character. The minute I consider myself to be a type of person, suddenly I see, gosh, why am I not those type of people? Do you see? Now, failure is how you acknowledge what is leading you towards greater vision. Because any push or pull will get you there. You know what that means is when the purpose is to move, any push or pull will get you there. Any shake of life will get you there. You can either shake it off yourself, shake the concept of it off yourself, or you can choose to see it but become more mindful and observant of it. So many human beings must recognize that there are two approaches here. If you're one who is working with individual consciousness, you are using imagery. So don't suddenly throw away science and understanding and how to work with the external world properly. There is a reason human beings have lived, and so that is to live better. There is great phenomena happening. I mean, even though we do consider the human being, this movement is different. The human population is growing, and that is suggesting a presence of an energy. It's as if something has put the intention to create that. And so many of us are at this point where, because our world is still an unopened box, an unopened gift, we have to either make sure it's a box or not. Do you see? Once you can move beyond ideology that is allowing you to create your own suffering by letting you think as if you thought of that idea, it is wrong, because ideas at times are individual, hollow forms. They are hollow, for you are putting the life in the idea, for you are putting the beauty in the face. Why is it that you are attracted to certain people, and why is it that you're not attracted to certain people? And we can't choose to dull it down, but it'll be kind of meaningless, you know? What that means is, if we take a football game, for example, and that moment when the soccer player does a header, you know, just a random header, random reflex header to get the ball in, you kind of see, did we need graphs for that? Did we need a lot of planning for that? Did the coach have anything to do with that? Or was it relevant to how the being acknowledged the present moment, and from the present moment dived into the limitlessness of the sky? Do you see? Like, it is how you are engaging the moment. The footballer was aware where he was. He knew how far the ball was moving. He knew which angle it was coming from, and he didn't use protectors. It was intuition. It was that sense that when man learns, it enters you. The minute you are comfortable with imagery, the imagery is comfortable with you. But when you're uncomfortable with the imagery, you as a human being assume the imagery is not the problem, and it's something else. And so wars are begun because men are wanting things they don't really need. And of course, this is in the realm of ideology, not even getting to the unnecessary resource waste and game we're playing, you know. We must create a mentality of abundance in the human being, because we might not be aware of it, but the human being is not just the human being. The attention, the divine attention, existential attention that is present within what is making the individual an individual is profound. It's the rest of your existential intelligence outside of ideas, which you couldn't, in a sense, move beyond. But you always can. Ideology needs to be acknowledged here. Ideology has been silently moving around in the minds of men, making them do things they could never understand why they did it. Because you can tell me, where is anger coming from? It is coming from how human communication, how the human being is communicating with other, and how he's communicating with self. So what that means is, anger is actually a problem in your own communication with yourself, which you are imposing on others. And it's, to be honest, anger is a natural thing, and it shouldn't be judged too much, man. Because we don't know. We're a being who doesn't know, and we go into houses and structures of certainty, into ways of living in certainty, and once that certainty breaks, we don't want to change. You know, we have comfort zone. Regardless of how much you say you're comfortable or not, there's a certain ratio of how much you're willing to go and pick up that trash from the ground and put it in a thing. There's a ratio of certainty and uncertainty you have to your own ideologies. Now the phenomena is that man doesn't have an awareness to where his ideology is coming from, because, in a sense, he is not looking at what is here. Because there is still the idea. Here is here, existentially. So it's as if that being who failed, that being who the world was about to end and suddenly realized the apocalypse accidentally had picked him that day. You know, you begin to see you are confronting your own ideas, because that's what you must let go of before you pass away. It is how you as a conscious being, or how you're considering this individual consciousness, is very important. Because this individual consciousness is suggesting how much there's a space between you and things. There's a space between beings. And based on the container of how you choose to see the world, it is you who is receiving. It has nothing to do with the law of attraction if you don't choose to change yourself. The being must realize that you as a being are something that's alive. And the maintenance of this is coming from how this life is aware of life. And so we seem to give people, in other words, our communication freed us in regards to our survival, but chained us to the forms of survival, the forms that are trying to survive. And so how we move beyond it is to accept existential movement regardless of image. And this does not, when I say accept this, of course, this is a subtler level, guys. This is like you deeply realizing, all right, if I'm here, I'm gonna see what's here. If they're giving me a box and if they're defining space and time, I will go to the edge of that definition to see what else there is. And soon, there is no hindrance but old ideas which are being carried by an idealess sense of knowing. So certain qualities to see in human beings which you should learn from both in yourself and others is how they are trusting life, how they are communicating to it, and how they are communicating to themselves. There has been many times, and of course I was caught in this dilemma when I was young, and because I wanted to talk to people, you know, because I was very shy when I was young, I would talk about anything, and so I was not discreet on how I was communicating, what I was communicating, and even what I was communicating. Because guys, it went to a point where in my life I realized as a human being, gosh, I am trying to live rather than living. And what's that all about? Who put the try there? Do you know? What was there before trying? Pretty much just being. Man is free. Man doesn't have to be free. Do you see? Because man, the have to part, the individual consciousness part, keeps creating projections of reality, modalities of how manifestation is present. And so the most important area of study is how this world has treated you so far. And once you really know that when failure comes to you, or you're met with failure, or an apocalyptic view of your reality, you are aware that you're about to take a shower in thought. That all those ideas, all those strong mannerisms of yourself and weak mannerisms are all about to, in a sense, be thrown into a whirlwind of change. Because you want to move beyond the ideology that is not serving you. Because you want to move. And guys, I want to say that it's very important to recognize that it's not about the knowledge at times either. Knowledge can be different to a being who's aware of his multidimensionality compared to a being who does not even accept himself being more than what he is thinking that he is. Man is a phenomena, different states of being. We need to become existentially aware. It's not all about just wearing our jackets and shoes in the morning, you know. It's all about now to be aware of how we are maintaining this life form, this life intelligence. We need to have a greater responsibility in discovering the depths of what imagination means for man. Because if we are a multidimensional being, then our problems were just waiting to be utilized by a creative mind for a renaissance. In other words, there were no problems, it was just color. If you look at physicality, it is a communication of how you are associating with different intensities of color and shading. When you look around visually, you see something physically, right? But when you become aware of your moment very deeply, you wonder, what is it that you're seeing? And many men have brought great advancements for mankind by questioning not their external world or how their external systems are more, but rather questioning more their internal systems which the external is feeding into. So you internally clean yourself and cleanse yourself and bring yourself to great existential self-awareness, and then go on to working with ideology and working. So you must see as a being, your focus is manifestation. And the adjustment of that focus is how we are present among many worlds. When you meet failure, you will see that failure can meet no one. Beyond the stories that are suggesting your incapabilities, you are a moment of being, and I'm not going to tell you you are the greatest being on earth, but I'm going to tell you you have a very unique opportunity to open this gift of life for yourself and to see what is so amazing about the phenomena of your manifestation here, the phenomena of you being who you are. For man must begin somewhere and must begin with a place of trust. I noticed that because my thoughts and understanding was very, very profoundly a suggestion of pretty much, guys, I looked at my thoughts and I noticed that rationality and science and logic has equipped me, but it seems it is not serving the search. Because I saw I can rationalize and I can deconstruct any idea I have to infinitum. I can deconstruct it infinitely. So it's not about what we deconstruct or what we construct, but about the intelligence that is present in that space of change. Are we more impressed by the movement of planets or by just the planet? I think man is interested by its whole. We are seeking individuality because the thinker needs to update itself because the physical body is shifting in the environment. But you actually are not a thinker, even though you have developed, and humanity for a while has developed the potential to be one. What that means is you can totally work with that modality of reality and just go live. But Mr. Within is suggesting, don't just be in one state of way, you know? Because ideas can shift, they can move, they can go into realms where you begin to see, when you read that word in that book, it's having a meaning to you. But then you see someone else can read the same book and have that meaning. And so it seems the book is just like our world, that everyone is interpreting. And so it's as if the next choice in interpretation was to solidify value, and that's when there was illusion. For duality came into conscious view to suggest an unconscious. You are beyond a form looking at yourself. When you look in the mirror, you may see the mirror, but there is something that you may wonder, what is seeing everything alive? I mean, if you were to think, if you saw an ant and you saw that ant and the levels of that, you know, you saw an ant and you saw you were a higher being. If you were to wonder what are these greater beings, it wouldn't go to extraterrestrial consciousness. It wouldn't just be extraterrestrial. It would move to an extent where it would go beyond individual consciousness. When spirituality suggests individual consciousness, a lot of spiritual folks are like, wait, what do you mean? You know? Because spirituality is not here for your ideas. Spirituality is when you as a being, based on your awareness, are growing. It's as if it's the time where the flower sprouts, you know? And you don't need to look up anything before. You don't need to go based on inaccurate senses of self, which are constantly changing to justify who you are. We choose stagnation, but it seems the world moves in ways that man cannot understand yet, but can always know. When you begin to wonder where inspiration should come from, many people wonder, gosh, is it going to be something outside? Is it going to be something inside? But to be honest, inspiration comes when you self-reflect or when a person makes you self-reflect. The being who self-reflects receives an awareness that he does not have to continue his wrong. And so there is a development of compassion and sincerity. Some of the most compassionate beings on this plane of existence have been the greatest victims to no one else but themselves. And through that, they have understood there never was a victim, for it is all here. When you see infinite people can extract meaning from that book, you know, from words in that book, and read it in their own way, you begin to see, gosh, truth really had its own way too. As if each individual sought clarity to see that it was more than something that we should associate with or disassociate with. It is not a game, my friends. It is not a game. But when you are within the experience, be playful. But know that it's not a game, it's just life. Because a game can suggest that it's too playful and you begin to go into fantasies. You are in a moment of life, and the moment suggests the communication of who you're going to be. If you work based on this mannerism, your psychology would be healthy and you would live in a world you would trust. What that means is that the reason many people right now are working into a 5 to 9 system is because they don't trust anything outside of that system. That's why they're paying their attention on. Whatever you're doing as a being right now, the reason you are paying attention to something is because you feel you can't move beyond it. So similar to that musician who traveled bar to bar doing the same song and mastering it, suddenly began to see at some point he knew he needed a greater audience, and life gave it to him. Perhaps through an X Factor audition, I don't know. But in a sense, guys, simply put, failure suggests a complex, excuse my language, fuck up. Usually when you fail, you feel you've fucked up and life is complex and you don't know what to do. The answer is to immediately observe the other side of the spectrum and to wonder how your state of being would be if you were successful. If it wasn't like this, and you begin to see in just that change of ideas that you don't have to be like this now. Do you know? What that means is before I get angry, usually I'm very peaceful. But when something happens, it happens in that moment, and suddenly anger comes, do you know? Punishment, do you know, it is not natural to have judgment and guilt and punishment, guys. I mean, it feels natural because the human being has been living in a certain way and has been conditioned in a certain way, but it's not natural because it is not natural because we are not taking that step out of our comfort zone as a species. The leaders of today are all playing the game of security. How do we secure ourselves? How do we secure ourselves? Rather than one leader standing up and coming up, hey guys, enough! Enough of this separate nonsense. Human species should get together immediately and the consciousness should be clarified. Human communication should be advanced, and then we are able to confront bigger things. So immediately organize yourself. Do it for mankind. Do it for the children that you want to kindly live in the future. It is important. Because what are we but distant memories for a planet? The actuality of who you are is beyond the succession within a hierarchy. It is the observance in which the hierarchy is within. Man is untouched. Failure was never here. Much blessings and namaste.